All right, chat. All aboard the party bus. For those that have not been around here recently, we've got Lumbering Battlements. As this enters the battlefield, exile any number of other creatures you control. Gets 2/2 for each one underneath it, and then when it dies, it brings them all back. Some combination of Lumbering Battlements along with Hostage Takers enables us to generate an infinite loop of enter the battlefield effects. And we loop these into the battlefield effects to gain lots of life, draw lots of cards. Or in some cases, take over lots of things from the opponent. Apparently my wife has been messaging me. My Facebook was closed. Oh, she's the best wife. She wants to get me lunch. I love her. Anywho, we're kind of an Esper mid-range deck. Other than that, let's go ahead and dive on into some matches and see how it goes. Listen, chat. I am a millennial. I trade my personal privacy and freedoms for convenience all of the time. Yeah, we took out the flying vampire because we can just steal their stuff when we loop. Facebook is the most... Okay, here's a question. Here's a question for people that are crapping on Facebook. Is there another messaging service that has a similar head type overlay for Android? That's primarily why we use Facebook, because it's convenient for running on top of other applications with their messenger application. I don't think I want a second Thought Erasure against turn 1 Vampire. MySpace? What year is it? Well, I guess we take the thing that's not like the others. I'm gonna keep this because I need a second white to cast some of my spells later. Yeah, I'm old enough to have used MySpace. My Twitter account is like 12 years old, chat. Okay? I'm gonna ditch this agent actually in case we draw Blood for Bones. MySpace looks like the bloatware news app that came with my phone. That's funny. AIM. I remember we used to, and these are the types of kids we were. We used to DDoS each other using AIM because what was it? GAIM, whatever the third-party AIM application was, you could load up thousands of bot accounts into it, and you just would spam message people and lock their computers up. It's a good time. Alright, there's the Blood for Bones, why we ditched the Agent of Treachery earlier. Am I doing this? I think I'm doing this. What if I don't block here and encourage them to pump it? Nah, I don't think I want to take that hit. Let's just do this. I miss the 90s. The 90s were a wild time. Early 2000s too, really. God, that's so good too. This game is over. Maybe I'm supposed to just steal that instead of stealing it this way. Nah, I can use now I can use Agent of Treachery to steal this, right? Or that one. I'm gonna steal that one. I suppose I could also have sacrificed the hostage taker and gotten the hostage taker back, but that's probably unnecessary at this point. Yeah, it's possible I should have sacked the hostage taker and gotten that back. Wraith, thank you for the 2/3 of your support. I appreciate that. Welcome back. Thanks for keeping me around. I guess if I would have looped the hostage taker, I could have triggered the Agent of Treachery, right? Yeah, if we steal one more thing, we start drawing cards. That would have been a lot better. I forgot about Agent of Treachery's alt text. If they double block here, they lose both their things. Bye, Felicia. Oh, and this triggers because I paid 7. That's great. That's so excellent. House Markov grows stronger. Oh, this deck's a hoot. We're gonna get a Lord next turn, okay? Calm down. Now we do need to kill them before we deck. That is a very real concern. We need to kill them before we deck out. I don't even know what to do with my hands, really, chat. I don't even know what to do with my hands. Oh, this deck is such good clean living. Do 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 do. This is a better take on your stuff take on the Steal Your Stuff deck. Yeah, it's less obnoxious than the Mass Manipulation decks. You gotta work your way up to it. I think this is fine. I know these were like good last game, but I don't want to get too clunked up on them. Maybe I like third Blood for Bones better than like one of these. Because like rebuying these is fine too. There are two great modern sets that are going to get uploaded to YouTube today. Both the modern decks we played were great. This hand's a little speculative, but having all my mana and all my colors and a 2-mana removal spell, I think means I want to keep it here. Yikes. Well, this is their nut draw. Might have a hard time keeping up with this one. On the draw especially. On the play we might have been okay, but I think on the draw we're gonna get run out here. Feels dead, man. Good to know that they're on Gideon Blackblade. It means I want all my... I'm always uncertain if I want all 4 Noxious Grasp for this matchup, but if they have Gideon, I definitely do. That game was a good example of I trimmed 1 Agent of Treachery in sideboarding. Definitely not a card we want to draw multiple of a lot of the time in this game. This is fine. How greedy do I want to be is the question. I think I'm gonna bottom a land. I have a scry. It might be right to pitch this and keep these. Deal. I'm actually just going to preserve my health total here, and I'm going to play this tapped this turn, and the next turn we'll go Fblthp plus tap Temple of Silence, and then we can go Glacial Fortress Bell-Haunt. I think I'm in for that. Big beefy blockers are great here. I think even with the Battlement on top of my deck, I'm going to trade with this 1/1 if they don't play a Lord or make it bigger with Sorin. Just so I can, like, keep them off of flipping this Legion's Landing in an ideal world. It's a touch unfortunate. We traded there and they still get to flip this. Oh, I forgot to update my frame too. They binned a Despark, So this second card is very good as well, because they bin to cards as a second Despark. Second way to remove it, sure. Brutal. Hostage Shaker. I should have waited to play my land because I could draw a tapped land. That is an excellent draw. I'm taking 3, 4, 5, possibly 6, 7, 8 this turn. That is an aggressive attack. Really hoping to draw a 2 through 4 mana spell this turn, or a 1 mana spell. Ideally, we are going to draw an untapped land that doesn't hurt us next turn and get this Agent of Treachery going. Really, really unfortunate that we just kind of clumped up here a little bit. Again, good example why we lower our curve in the aggressive matchup. So we're taking 6 inside of combat here, going to 2. And then we're not dead if we draw a land that doesn't hurt us. That comes into play untapped. Still dead on board. Need to draw another castable spell. Is 1 card too late, unfortunately. But I had very good draws those games. We came up a little bit unfortunate at the end. Not a whole lot to do there. Logan CG, thank you for the 7 months of support. I appreciate that. Welcome back. Not fully updated version deck says M20 is Agent that much better than Sovereign. Yeah, it is. So, I'm not sure how much you played this deck before M20, but while this deck, well, this is what you subbed for, right? While this deck was always really reasonable against aggro because it has lots of things that gain 3 life in the main deck, why not play Battlement there? Because if I play Battlement, I'm literally dead on board. Whereas if I play the 1/3, I have a chance to draw something that leaves me not dead on board, like a removal spell or another cheap blocker. So, sorry, to finish my thought, last season, this deck's really hard time was with mid-range decks, and having Agent of Treachery as your top end gives you really good game against the Planeswalker and mid-range decks. Why should I play Battlement the turn before? Instead of me telling you you're wrong, tell me why you're right. Make an argument, form a cohesive statement. I think we're just gonna get run down here. Well, that's a pretty good one to find. I think the land for Judy we're probably done. Swing and a miss. So we're gonna take 4 down to 13 here. And then we might be en route to stabilization here. We got a lot of cards that gain 3 in our hand. All right, there's the land for Judy. So we're going to 4. Yeah, it looks like we're going to be a little bit off. We are exactly dead on board before we can stabilize here. Needed them to miss on Judith for 1 more turn. We died to the 1 damage trigger here. If we'd have just had 1 more turn or like not had a shock land there, we'd have been able to stabilize that. And we talked about this in Modern too, right? Like a lot of Magic, like a lot of Magic, and this is something that we've talked about from a game design perspective too on stream before, is that, in my opinion, I wish Magic had a better balancing mechanic for being on the play versus being on the draw. Because being on the play is a very significant advantage in Magic the Gathering in basically every format. And I was glad to see Wizards really experiment and get us a better mulligan roll. The London mulligan is such an insane upgrade from the old one. I would love to see them experiment with better play draw rules to try and balance the game a little bit better that way. Nah, you're just being super results-based, Jerry. You're just like, Jeff's played against 2 aggro decks in a row, so I want to make a change for the aggro decks. There's a lot of different things they could try. I think, something that I would like to see is, maybe the person on the draw gets to start with 8 cards in their hand, but then doesn't draw a card on the first turn, just like the person on the play. It's like you choose basically between, you get extra choices while you're mulliganing. You start from 8 instead of starting from 7. Yeah, you can grind there. It's just like 3 minutes effort, right? There's a 1,000 different knobs they could turn to make it, to balance it differently, right? But they're like, haven't elected to turn any of those knobs. Foolish! Thank you for the brand new Prime support. I appreciate that. Welcome. Thanks for keeping me around. Hope you're having a good one wherever you're at. I think we have died, chat. I'm not sure. Maybe I should have kept the hostage taker. Maybe I should have kept the hostage taker. Sure, yeah, you could, like I said, JVL, there's a 1,000 different knobs you could turn in 1,000 different ways. I wish there was just some amount of experimentation. I feel like, and I've given this opinion a lot before, like when it comes to like Magic's ban lists and little things like this, I feel like Wizards is too conservative because they're far too terrified of breaking things when they should be worried about making things better, in my opinion. Like the London Mulligan is just leaps and bounds better than the Mulligan system we've worked with for so many years, and if they would have just been less afraid to innovate, we could have had it a long time ago. In fact, in the original article where they introduced it, they talked about it's something they considered, but then ultimately didn't do because of the possible results. I don't remember what the exact timeline was. It's like at least 6+ months. Do I like what they're doing with the standard shakeup event? Not really. I would like it if they had the cojones to shake up actual standard. If they were just like, you know, weren't afraid. I'm gonna keep the Blood for Bones and ditch the hostage taker here. I've got a Discovery and I've got a Tomebound Lich that can hopefully dig me into. The standard shakeup event is one of their week-long tournaments that they're gonna be doing where they've banned like a dozen cards. It's not even really standard. It's a different format, basically. You take the 12 best cards out of standard, and you change the format. I like a lot of what's going on in the standard format. I don't want a fundamentally different format. I would just like to play this standard format minus Teferi and Wilderness Reclamation. It's not been a good morning for the bus, chat. It's not been a good morning for the bus. Yeah, that's true. Naya Feather doesn't lose anything, basically. and I'm gonna give one of those controversial opinions. The secondary market should hold zero bearing on what is banned or not banned in Magic the Gathering. That's my steaming hot take for the afternoon. Whenever somebody makes a secondary market argument for whether or not bans should or shouldn't happen, then you should automatically disqualify everything they say because it's nonsense. Magic's a game that people should play for fun. And guess what? Most people who play Standard even semi-seriously aren't opening booster packs to get cards. So the argument that people are going to open cards in booster packs they can't play in their Standard tournament, most people who are opening booster packs to get cards aren't playing Standard, they're playing casual Magic. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Casual Magic's great. It's the lifeblood of this game. And people are encouraging players who are trying to play Standard to open booster packs. Those people are doing those folks a disservice. You should never think about a Magic deck. If you're building a deck because you think it's a safe investment, I would encourage you not to build that deck. Or not to play a rotating format. And that, again, is why I really wish this application had a good non-rotating format. Because basically people who don't want to deal with the rotating format basically just don't have a good choice while playing Magic Arena right now. You either play the rotating format or you go scratch and don't do anything else. Niv, thanks for the big tip. I appreciate it. Niv, have you seen, have you seen the mono green Scapeshift deck that's on my website? I kinda feel like the mono green Scapeshift deck's just a better version of what you sent in there. Sure, you can play limited on Arena, but there's a lot of people like myself who love playing Magic and don't have an interest in playing limited. And then there's other people who have no interest in limited and like playing Magic and don't want to play a rotating format. And again, and we talked about this when the Historic announcement was near, but I feel like them basically ignoring Historic or like putting it in a corner like Wild and not giving it any support is another really short-sighted decision that's putting off players who have been here for a long time for the sake of short-term profits to try and push Standard harder. Players who play non-rotating formats who've been playing Magic for so long are the lifeblood of this game. They're the people that are going to be here when it stops being a fad. But Watsy is so caught up in esports right now that like they keep making all these decisions that like aren't good for people who have been around for forever. I would like you to cast your Spell Pierce. Yikes. At least this Guildmage can chump block for a turn or two. We'll gain some life, we'll throw some chump blockers after they draw fewer cards. If we're really lucky, we could string together a bunch of lands to get this Agent of Treachery going. So this Guildmage was gain 7, draw a card, they don't draw a card. Seems like a good exchange. Hostage Shaker would be a great draw. Witch Figure. Witch Figure's actually not bad here. Because this plus Witch Figure trades with a 4/4, right? So if they don't have a Dive Down or a Dispel, if they have another Lord, things go sideways for me, but definitely worth playing the land out here untapped. A Lord, for people unfamiliar with this term, is exactly this eagle here. Lord is magic jargon for a card that pumps a specific creature type. Yeah, I agree, B Rich. It's a new market and people are all scrambling to get into it, basically, right? All these companies didn't want to miss the next gravy train, essentially. Yeah, holding back to try and threaten a double block might have been okay. I didn't think about that. Yeah, we're pretty dead here. So, once upon a time, this archetype was like super reasonable against the aggressive decks, but the way these aggressive decks have changed, it feels like the fact that mono red and the aggro decks with reach aren't the premier aggro decks anymore, it's felt like this deck has really struggled. Because these aggro decks are attacking on different axes than what this was defending from last season. And their axes that this one has a harder time. Now, I don't even think that's true on Band Twin. One drop aggro is actually really good for us. The problem is, like, they're going bigger things. Like, white weenie aggro and stuff like that is fine. The problem is, like, vampires drawing cards and stuff like that. And, like, having bigger threats like their one drop that gets bigger. Yeah, exactly. This deck's much better against people trying to go wide as opposed to, like, individual units going tall. Yeah, exactly. When we lost to vampires, the 1-drop, 2-drop, Soar, and 5-drop. That's what killed us. Even this is another good example, right? Like, the Feather deck is another example of an aggressive deck that's just, it's operating on a fundamentally different axis than what we saw last season, and our creatures that are gaining us a little bit of life and blocking aren't really meaningful tools in a matchup like this anymore, like they were against Mono Red last season. I mean, Percy, like, the competitive part of Magic has never been the primary part of the game, and I feel like WotC missed that memo at some point. Yeah, I think that's true too, Dunk Daddy. We see a lot of these places repeating mistakes that other companies have made in the past. It's like, well, why are we making this mistake again? Didn't we learn from whoever else did this previously? Yeah, I don't know. We maxed the other problem too is, like, I refer to this format as being very similar to Modern. Like, and that's why Wizards thinks this format is healthy in their opinion, because it's very similar to Modern. In that, like, there's so many different decks in this format that, like, you make an adjustment to be good against the last 3 decks that I played against, and, like, my next 8 matches are against things that are completely different. So, like, from a raw number of the number of decks in this format's incredibly varied. Now, as to the quality of play patterns those decks generate, that's very much up for debate. But from a just a numbers perspective, there are a lot of decks that exist in this format. JW, thank you for the 7 months of support. I appreciate that. Welcome back. Thanks for keeping me around. So I want Caw Blade Standard is what I'm saying. I'm not. I'm just saying that's actually, so what you just did there is, I want to point this out. This is a very bad faith argument thing that people use not only in Magic but everywhere. So I said when there's 12 decks, it's impossible to metagame, and someone else came back with the rebuttal, so you want there to just be 1 deck. There is so much middle ground between 12 decks and 1 deck. And past that, my problem with this format isn't that there's 12 decks in it. The problem with this format is that the average play pattern among those 12 decks is 3 mana Teferi, Mass Manipulation, Scapeshift, Command the Dreadhorde. all of those styles of effects create gameplay that, in my opinion, isn't ideal for various reasons. I have Temple here, right? Which is my next white source. There are only 3 numbers, 0, 1, and infinity. 9 months later and still enjoying the content. I appreciate that you do your daily content, building up in the background every day. Thanks for the 3/4 of a year, Wildfeather. Hope you're having a good one wherever you are. It's not a bad pickup. It'll give us something to do with our tap land next turn. And like, you know, not to, and I want it to be very clear too that I am also not an enlightened centrist as far as things go. Like, there are certain issues, especially in the political realm, where there's not a middle ground, right? Like, kids in cages and kids not in cages. Like, you don't put kids on dog leashes in the middle, right? That's not okay. Things of that nature. You can marry the person you love. You can't marry the person you love. There isn't a middle ground there. Maybe I should have taken the Reckless Rage there, actually. Yeah, I probably should have taken the Reckless Rage, huh? It's fine. I've got a Bell-Haunt. Yeah, they gave me a free point of life by playing this in their first main phase. But then I gave them a free Reckless Rage here, so, you know. I'm gonna bottom that. We've got a couple of 7 drops in our deck, but none in sight currently. They drew another one. Yeah, yikes. I definitely messed up big by not taking their Reckless Rage with that other one. No 7 drops in sight, he says. Hold my beer, the shuffler says. Okie doke. Yeah, what's going on, Wrestling? Thanks for the half of your support. I appreciate that. Welcome back. If you Lumbering falls your opponent's thing, it goes back to them. What are the similarities between 3 free and something like Scapeshift? So those things do not have similar gameplay patterns, but they're bad for different reasons. In my opinion, combo decks in Standard that aren't interacted with via creature removal lead to a high quantity of games where one player does not end up having any meaningful decisions. Was there any fallout? I mean, I don't know. I assume they weren't happy with me being done, but I don't plan to play any more competitive stuff on stream really, except for like Twitch rival stuff anymore. Unless there's a guaranteed payout, it's just like really not worth it. And my content time is better spent doing things like the donation queue or playing decks that I enjoy. What happened with fandom? I just dropped it, O2. We got like run out of the game by some bad beats. You scared me.
Good.
Thank you, wife. I love you.
Oh, I love you too.
She was upset that I said I love you while I was muted, so I had to do it again, you know, for posterity's sake. I'm sorry, can you explain your last statement? I didn't quite follow. Which statement, a Ninja Turtle? We say a lot of words. There's a lot of words around here. Which ones in specific were you referring to? The one about gameplay. In my opinion, combo decks that do not allow you to interact with them via creature removal are decks that generate non-interactive gameplay too frequently and should not exist in Standard. It's not a bad draw. Get to rip this Reckless Rage out of them. He says his opponent also has a Prison Realm. That's probably not good enough. They could rather just try and draw a removal spell. Oh no. Oh no. Play a very sad 2-3. The glowing red circle of no. I'm gonna move on. I've got a lot of standard decks I want to play today in this one. This one was just not a good scene. This one was just not a good scene. We used up all our collective variants in the first we used up all of our cumulative variants in the first two matches of what's it called? Yeah, I honestly don't think I'd really change anything in this deck. I feel like we had like the Vampires matchup isn't that bad. We hit a pretty bad beat there. And then some of the other decks we just stumbled and fumbled a little bit and came up a little bit short, whether it was a die roll or like one spell short or whatnot. So, you know. There's too many decks in this format to really be worth changing this to try and attack specific decks, then you're just going to play against different decks other than those. So just like prepare for the decks that you want